$1,760 per month tax-free. That's what your service-connected chronic pain should be putting in your pocket every single month. If it's not, something might be wrong, and you're in luck because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how to make your chronic pain from service work for you in a way that really makes a difference for you and your family. I'm Jordan Anderson, VA Claims Academy. If that sounds fair enough, let's get into it. Quick, before we start, look at the cute dog, lower those stress levels. I can't teach you if you're not in a learning mindset. Now that this has worked, mandatory fun's over, let's get into it. We're talking today about chronic pain. This, many of us veterans deal with chronic pain from service. We're talking about something that almost every single one of us carries through our everyday lives. How do you make this work for you, especially to the tune of nearly $2,000 per month or more than $21,000 tax-free per year? Today I'm talking about chronic pain syndrome, or sometimes called chronic pain disorder, okay? First of all, let me show you how this works, okay? Or that this works, rather. This, and don't worry about it, I know you're not going to be able to see this, it's going to be tiny. I'll read this for you verbatim, okay? This is actually going to be a appeal. This is an appeal from the VA Board of Veterans Appeals, okay, appellate court. And this is a real veteran who won, in this case, which is actually below average, for the increased rating for chronic pain disorder in this case. And again, I know you can't see this, don't worry about it. Chronic pain disorder currently assigned a 50% evaluation. Okay, now, like I said, that is actually below average, so underperforming the average rating for this chronic pain. In this case, chronic pain disorder, chronic pain syndrome, it's the same thing. But that's how significant this could be in terms of your VA rating. A 50% rating is actually low. Typically, it's a 70% rating just for this condition alone. How is this possible? Well, it's possible because you need to know the VA's playbook. You need to know the VA's game plan. This is an open book test. Okay, what I'm about to show you is the same exact strategy that just over the past 24 hours, our clients, a couple of results here. You have this gentleman just went from a 10% rating for years to a 70% VA rating and is very happy about that. And as well, this just coming in, this gentleman getting a 100% permanent and total rating, VA Claims Academy clients. And why? It's not because we're geniuses here at VA Claims Academy. We take what the VA already says, how they rate you, and translate your true story into the VA's language. Let me show you the magic behind that and how it applies to having chronic pain. Chronic pain, most veterans know, okay, to the extent that, hey, my back is hurting, my knee is hurting, maybe it's your shoulder, whatnot. Perhaps you were air assault, rappelling out of helicopters, or you have a bum knee from being infantry, carrying heavy packs. Whatever it is that's causing you chronic pain, or even chronic discomfort, these are things that cause downstream effects. When I talk about chronic discomfort, this could be something simple or as common as tinnitus, the ringing in your ears, right? It's not necessarily painful. Perhaps it's buzzing in your ears, maybe a sense of fullness. Maybe you have hearing loss rated at 0% right now, but the downstream impacts aren't so much, again, the pain, but maybe the embarrassment, right? You can't socialize very much because you just can't hear what's going on. You don't want to go out with a hearing aid. People have problems with those. Perhaps the ringing in your ears is triggering, it's making you go crazy, right? It's so annoying. It's impacting your life. These downstream impacts impact you, and they should be impacting your VA rating, okay? You're not just rated for your primary condition. You're rated for all of the downstream effects that has on you, and especially when it comes to how it impacts you mentally. Who here, let me see a raise of hands, show of hands for me. You have back pain in the morning, you can't play with your grandkids, you can't move like you used to. You used to love running marathons, can't do that anymore. Let me see a show of hands how that makes you just jump for joy. It doesn't, right? It does the opposite. I don't care if you're, super, super tough guy, tough gal. this has an impact on your mental state, okay? Now there's different levels to this. This doesn't mean that you're necessarily going absolutely insane, you're going crazy, but the fact that this kind of bums you out, right? This kind of lowers your energy levels. This kind of dampens you, gives you a flattened effect. This is an extremely valuable thing to mention as far as your VA rating goes. Why? Because chronic pain syndrome, going back here, which could also be called, by the way, not just chronic pain disorder, but something called somatic symptom disorder, or SSD for short. These are mental health ratings. This is why this is important. Chronic pain syndrome as a mental health rating means that it's categorized exactly the same as PTSD. It's categorized exactly the same as anxiety, depression, MST, bipolar disorder, insomnia. Okay, why is that important? Because the average mental rating, like I alluded to earlier, is 70% rating. And a couple of videos ago, I explained to you how the mental criteria are going to be changing pretty soon. So right now is the time to definitely pay attention, lock in, and get this intent to file in if you have chronic pain. Now, you have chronic pain, you don't have a current mental rating already. That's important, right? Because if you already have a mental rating in place, I'm talking about the conditions that I listed, anxiety, depression, PTSD, insomnia. If you are already rated 0% or higher, it probably makes more sense for you to just increase that existing mental rating rather than pile on a different mental rating, because they get combined into one overall mental compensation. Does that make sense? You can't stack mental ratings and add them together, right? Now that you know that chronic pain has mental impacts, that yes, you should be going to your psychiatrist, make an appointment, just check in with your primary doctor and say, hey, my back pain, I've been kind of ignoring it, and I just realized that this is kind of bumming me out. That means that you're human, by the way. Who can I talk to about this? Who can I get this on record for? Yes, it's important because you're being diminished to your household, right? And the VA is on the hook for that. That's just the agreement. You are worth way more. You have a soul. You're important. You're valuable. You're worth way more than dollars that are conjured up out of nothing, okay? So, how do you actually go about this? First, you need to get a diagnosis, okay? In this case, you go to your primary care, say, hey, I've been ignoring this for quite a while. I didn't even realize, it's like boiling the frog. I kind of just thought I was grouchy. I just thought I was getting lower patience. I didn't realize how much my service-connected injuries, my service-connected conditions were actually kind of probably adding on to this mental distress, and I haven't even realized it. This could end up with a diagnosis. You go a couple times to your psychiatrist. They say, hey, you know what? Yeah, this is consistent with something called chronic pain syndrome. This is consistent with something called somatic symptom disorder. Boom. That's huge. Because even though you didn't get diagnosed during your service, right, with this mental condition, you have a diagnosis now, but you also have what we call in the biz a nexus. A nexus, whenever you see this fancy word, I just want you to think connection to service. All right? So what are you going to want for this to actually happen? To solidify the nexus here, you're going to want, because again, you don't get service connected without a nexus, right? The nexus is your bridge to service connection. That's service connection. You're going to want, in order to get this service connected, you're going to want a nexus letter, all right? In this case, since chronic pain syndrome and somatic symptom disorder, or even if you get diagnosed with anxiety or depression, that might be your diagnosis, right? It's like, hey, I have anxiety, but it's being caused by my migraines that are service connected. I don't know when a migraine attack is going to strike. And it just makes me anxious all the time because I don't know when I'm going to be on the floor, with my left eye feeling like it's getting gouged out. That's a real thing. That's very common. Whatever the diagnosis is, you're going to want a nexus letter, which is a doctor's note from, in this case, the relevant specialist, since this is a mental condition, is going to be a psychiatrist. You're going to want a board-certified psychiatrist to sign a nexus letter for you, stating that it's at least as likely as not that your diagnosis is related to your service by way of being secondary to your existing service-connected condition. Let's take that headaches example. Let's go straight through. Your psychiatrist is saying that it's at least as likely as not that your migraines, okay, or headaches are causing your anxiety. Therefore, your new diagnosis of anxiety should be connected to your service by the VA. All right? This is called a secondary claim. This, if you think about it, the more conditions that you have granted by the VA, if you're telling me, if you're sitting there at 80%, 70%, 90% rated by the VA, that means that, you probably have a lot of conditions that are already service connected. That means that you can connect a condition to any one of those primaries. You see how many options it opens up, the fact that you already have a lot of existing service-connected conditions, even if they're 0%. Even if they're 0%. Okay, we have a diagnosis. We know we need a nexus. You know you need a nexus letter for this, okay? Where's the best place to get that? Go to vadisabilitydoctors.com, or, hey, become a client at VA Claims Academy if you feel like your medical providers could sign a nexus letter for you, as well as get personal statement drafts written by yours truly, okay? People have a lot of success with that, as you've seen earlier, and as you see with a lot of my videos, we show our clients' success. I want you to be next, okay? Number 3, you have these things. Now you're going to wrap it up with a solid personal statement. I'm going to abbreviate that to PS. This is such an important, because you're weighing in as the layperson. By the way, vets, if this is giving you value, do me a favor, hit that like button for me. You're weighing in firsthand, right, as the layperson, saying, hey, this is how my migraines impact me. I don't know when I'm going to get an attack. I could be at my granddaughter's choir concert and I'm just in the crowd. I should be enjoying this, but I can't because I'm scared that I'm going to have to leave and go lay down in the car. And she's going to see that I left her concert. Things like this. Give your story. It's so important. Now, when I say give your story, a lot of veterans give themselves into a lot of trouble with their personal statements because this is a legal document, right? You can get yourself into trouble, even if you're, like what they say, right? Even if you're innocent, never talk to the police, right? Because this process could get you into trouble even with things that you shouldn't be working against you, okay? You need to be on target. It needs to be concise. It needs to be short and sweet and talking about things that help you, because you're presenting at the end of the day. You're not just telling the VA. All my VA Claims Academy members and even subscribers, y'all know about this. You know about presenting rather than just telling. Presenting means that you have the audience in mind. Just like right now, I'm enunciating, I'm making sure that you're getting the topic, I'm having you in mind, I'm presenting, I'm not just telling you, oh yeah, get a nexus letter, get a diagnosis, and then get a personal statement, then you'll be good. That doesn't help anyone, right? Just like telling the VA doesn't help you. You need to present your story. This is done through a personal statement. Your chance to get on record with, pre-thinking in mind, you have plenty of time to craft this statement and be able to give it directly to the person making the decision on your VA claim. It's hugely powerful. You go through these 3 things and you've got a great shot at getting added an on average 70% rating to your overall VA rating. Okay, that's a high value condition. Let me show you how they rate you, right? Because again, this is an open book test. For mental health conditions, I'm going to abbreviate that to MH, okay? Mental health conditions. Again, if they diagnose you with depression, maybe you don't get diagnosed with chronic pain syndrome or chronic pain disorder or somatic symptom disorder. Your psychiatrist diagnosed you just with regular, anxiety or depression, maybe even adjustment disorder. That's all fine. You know why? Because it's the same exact diagnostic code. Every single mental health condition is the same diagnostic code. It gets rated the same exact way, okay? So the mechanism is the same here. And remember, if you already have a mental health condition, don't pile another one on because they don't add up, all right? It's inefficient. How is this rated? Well, right now, before the changes, okay, and remember the changes are set to take place here, I think in August it was. But right now, August 2025, this is going to be rated based on your social and occupational impairment. So we'll say this in English. So your work and also your relationships, how they are negatively impacted by your mental health condition is what you're going to want to articulate to the VA in order to maximize your VA rating, okay? It's going to say in 38 CFR, which again is basically the Bible for how you're rated, right? It's the open book of the open book test. The VA is telling you exactly how they're rating you. In the 100% threshold for mental ratings, which by the way, yes, these conditions can get you 100% VA disability rating all on their own. We're talking about $4,100 per month plus, right? $4,000 per month. It's going to say something like this: total impairment, total social and occupational impairment due to symptoms such as, and it has a list of symptoms. But notice how it says such as, meaning it's such as, right? It doesn't have to be those symptoms. What it really says is total social and occupational impairment, right? So you translate that to English, that means, again, how it negatively impacts you at work and your relationships. So you need to start thinking back on the arguments that you had with your spouse, maybe the promotion that you didn't get at work, maybe because your attitude or your inability to play nice with others, to be a teammate, be a team member, right? Really think back and be vulnerable with yourself and be honest about, hey, yeah, it's it kind of sucks to think about how you suck, right? But in this process, you need to be thinking about the negative because that's what they're asking for. They're asking for, hey, show me your impairments, right? So now's not the time to be positive and to be a positive thinker. You need to think about how you suck at work, how you suck in your relationships, and really put that on paper and be ready to be vulnerable, not just in the personal statements, but during your compensation and pension exam as well. Okay, let's recap. This is going to be from beginning to end how to do this. What we're talking about, when you have chronic pain from your service-connected conditions, it impacts you mentally. Every single one of us, it has an impact, okay? You don't have, this pain and this discomfort and, oh, it just stops at my body. It doesn't impact my mind. No, we're all mind, body, soul, right? We're humans, flesh and blood, okay? This has downstream impacts, just like I told you. Everybody, every one of us. What do you need in order to go through with this and actually start getting compensated for, on behalf of your household? Well, you need a diagnosis. We know that. Why? Because the VA claims process, it's a bureaucratic process. You need paperwork, all right? You need some type of diagnosis on record. Even if it's a new diagnosis, that's okay. What could those be? Chronic pain syndrome, chronic pain disorder, somatic symptom disorder. It could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be adjustment disorder. Any mental condition, whatever you get diagnosed with, whatever your mental professional thinks, in this case a psychiatrist would be the likely route to go. That's your diagnosis. And again, if they believe that, hey, yeah, just like you told me, your migraines are causing your anxiety, makes sense. I'm willing to sign a nexus letter for you stating that, hey, it's at least as likely as not, 50-50 toss-up, that your migraines are causing your anxiety. That satisfies the requirement for a nexus. Boom. Strong service connection there. And now you bulletproof that by giving your true story perfectly translated into the VA's language. Again, that's what we do here for our clients at VA Claims Academy. And you have yourself a strong claim that is very difficult for the VA to deny, okay? And what's the way to, okay, now you're looking to, like it's going to get service connected. What's the way to maximize your rating? How do you talk to the VA about this? Well, you talk about how this mental condition is impacting your work and, if I cannot mess up my board here, your work and your relationships negatively. Now is not the time to be positive. It's the time to be at your most vulnerable. Fellow vets, I really hope this helps you out. If this does, please start your intent to file right now at the end of this video, because this could be a life-changing boost for your VA rating. Again, if this provided you value, hit that thumbs up for me. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.